Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're exploring a destination that literally redefines what it means to travel. We are going to look closely at the data, the geography, and the culture of Brazil to figure out exactly why this massive, vibrant country captures the hearts of millions. When we think of travel, we usually picture crossing borders to experience something entirely new, right? But Brazil is what you might call a continental country. It is just so incredibly vast, deeply layered, and geographically expansive that moving from one state to another can literally feel like you've traveled to an entirely different part of the globe. From its wild ecosystems to its deep history, the sheer scale of what this country has to offer is absolutely staggering. So let's dig into exactly how that plays out.
Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1, a world of diversity.
So, did you know Brazil is actually one of the most diverse tourist destinations in the world? Take a second and think about what diverse really means to you as a traveler. Does it mean shifting from towering coastal mountains straight into flat, endlessly flooded wetlands? Or maybe it's a variety of regional foods that share almost zero ingredients. Or what about radically different cultural traditions and architecture from one city to the very next? Sometimes diversity just means hearing totally different accents, experiencing wildly different weather patterns, or moving from a sprawling, hyper-modern metropolis to a quiet, historic colonial town in just a matter of hours. Keep your own personal definition in mind as we move forward, because the evidence we're about to look at, it might just prove that Brazil embodies absolutely all of it.
Moving right along to Section 2, nature, culture, and carnival.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the stark juxtaposition we're seeing. On one hand, we've got pure, unadulterated natural beauty. We're talking about the pristine emerald waters of Fernando de Noronha, an archipelago so heavily protected that only a few hundred visitors can even step foot on it at a time. Or think about the dense, breathing canopy of the Amazon basin, which is just teeming with life that literally doesn't exist anywhere else on Earth. But then, on the flip side, we have this deep, human-driven cultural energy. Picture the cobblestone streets and Baroque churches of historic Ouro Preto, nestled right in the mountains of Minas Gerais, practically frozen in the 18th century gold rush. Or imagine the vibrant, drum-filled squares of Pelourinho in Salvador, Bahia, where Afro-Brazilian culture just pulses through the food, the music, and the people. Usually when you pick a travel destination, you kind of have to choose between a secluded nature retreat or a bustling cultural hotspot. Well, Brazil proves you absolutely don't have to compromise. I'm going to let this single number sit for just a second. 6. It sounds like a small number, right? But it represents something absolutely massive. Brazil is home to an astonishing 6 unique biomes. We aren't just talking about a country with one uniform tropical climate. The environmental diversity here is mind-blowing. First off, you've got the Amazon, the world's largest rainforest, which is basically generating a huge chunk of the Earth's weather patterns. Then move down to the Pantanal. These are sprawling, flooded wetlands that offer arguably the greatest wildlife viewing in the Americas. We're talking jaguars, giant capybaras, the whole shebang. Next up is the Cerrado, a vast, ancient tropical savanna full of dramatic plateaus and waterfalls. Then there's the Caatinga up in the northeast, which is this dry, scrubby, semi-arid landscape that's entirely unique to Brazil. Along the coast, you've got the Atlantic forest, or Mata Atlântica, a lush, incredibly biodiverse ecosystem that literally climbs the mountains right out of the ocean. Actually, fun fact, this is the biome that completely surrounds Rio de Janeiro. And finally, way down south, you have the Pampa, these sweeping, grassy plains that are home to Brazil's traditional gaucho, or cowboy culture. Crossing Brazil is literally like crossing into 6 completely different worlds. And all of that unmatched diversity draws a staggering number of people. 6 million tourists visit Brazil every single year. 6 million. So why are they all going? Well, the data points to a really powerful combination. It's those incredible landscapes we just covered, colliding with world-famous events and an absolutely unmatched local spirit. Think about Carnival in places like Rio de Janeiro, Salvador, or Recife. It's not just a party, it is an unparalleled spectacle. Down in Rio, the Sambadrome hosts these massive, meticulously engineered parades, while millions of people take to the streets in wild block parties known as blocos. That event draws millions entirely on its own. But even after the festival's end, the thing that keeps people coming back time and time again is the culture. Brazilians are globally renowned for their warmth, their hospitality, and this beautiful concept known as alegria, which is basically a deep, genuine joy for life that just permeates everyday interactions. When you combine that incredibly welcoming spirit with the ecological wonders of those 6 biomes, well, those 6 million annual visitors start to make a whole lot of sense. Which brings us to Section 3, Brazil is waiting for you. And this brilliantly illustrates the options laid out for you. Let's connect these to exactly what we've just learned. If you're an adrenaline seeker, adventure is waiting. Picture hang gliding from the peaks of Pedra Bonita right over Rio's coastline, or hiking the massive table mountains of Chapada Diamantina. If you want to immerse yourself in history, the culture is definitely waiting. From learning the traditional martial art of capoeira in Bahia to tasting centuries-old culinary traditions like moqueca, which is this insanely rich seafood stew cooked in clay pots. Or maybe you just want to disconnect. Well, nature is waiting in any of those 6 massive biomes we explored. Just imagine waking up to the sound of wild macaws in the Pantanal. Or hey, if you simply want to lay out in the sun, there are thousands of miles of pristine coastline ready for you, from the famous sands of Ipanema to the quiet, totally secluded beaches of the Northeast. The point is, Brazil caters to absolutely every single type of traveler.
Brazil is waiting for you. We've seen the sheer scale of the biomes, from the deep Amazon to the grassy Pampa. We've talked about the undeniable magnetism of its culture, the staggering draw of Carnival, and the millions of people who have already discovered its warmth and hospitality. The evidence is pretty clear. It is literally a world within a country, and it absolutely refuses to force you to compromise between nature, culture, adventure, or relaxation. So the only question left to ask yourself is this: when you finally pack your bags, which version of Brazil are you going to choose to discover first? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Stay curious, and I'll catch you next time.